Hello everybody, Dragonfire here, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thanks for joining me everybody. Alright, the topic for today is the top 10 albums of 1991. That's the top 10 albums of 1991. Okay, so for this top 10 albums of 1991, I gotta kick things off with some honorable mentions here. And I'm going with Tough, What Goes Around Comes Around. I believe this is the first album from the hair metal band Tough. Unusual Heat by Foreigner. If you followed this channel for long enough, you know I'm a big Foreigner fan. Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band, The Fire Inside. Still putting out pretty good albums in the early 90s. Hair metal didn't just completely die when the 80s ended. Nope, it kept going for a while. And this is Danger Danger with their second album, Screw It. I'll give that one an honorable mention. Tesla with Psychotic Supper. Also came out in 1991. Sacred Warrior with Obsessions. Sacred Warrior Obsessions. It's not bad. Contraband. This was a super group um, made up of members of several other bands. I believe they got a member from LA Guns, a member from Vixen, a member from what is it, MSG, yeah, Rat, and I forget what the other one was. All right, here's White Lion with Main Attraction. Again, these are my honorable mentions for 1991. Mr. Big, Lean Into It. You can pause these and look at the track listings if you want. David Lee Roth, A Little Ain't Enough. Of course, David Lee Roth, former lead singer of Van Halen. 1991, he's well into his solo career. The Cult Ceremony. XYZ Hungary. Great White with Hook. And Van Halen with For Unlawful Cardinal Knowledge, or FUCK, For Unlawful Cardinal Knowledge by Van Halen. Okay, those are my albums there that are part of my honorable mention list for the year 1991. But I want to throw in a little bit more here. So this is the soundtrack to the movie Bill and Ted's Excellent, or sorry, not Excellent Adventure, but the soundtrack to Bogus Journey. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. It came out in 1991, the soundtrack. And um, uh, I don't include soundtracks in my top 10 unless they're all by one artist. This is by multiple artists. So we got Shouted Out by Slaughter. Winger has a song on here, so does Kiss. Steve Vai has a couple songs. King's X has a song. Megadeth, Faith No More. So definitely check out the soundtrack to the movie Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Excellent Adventure, the first movie. Bogus Journey was the second one. Both soundtracks are really good. And then I'll throw in a few honorable mentions with some live albums here. This is Queensryche, their live album Operation Live Crime, which is the live version of their Operation Mindcrime album. And Poison. Poison's Swallow This Live. This came out in 1991. I'm not sure if it was all recorded at one concert or if it's a compilation from different concerts, but it did come out in 1991. So that would have been right after their third album, Flesh and Blood, came out in 1990. So if you like Poison's first three albums, uh, their two 80s albums and their first early 90s album, and wanted to hear what they sounded like live back in their prime, um, Swallow This Live is a great album. It also has a few uh, previously unreleased tracks that weren't on the first album. So, Swallow This Live, great one to add to your Poison collection. And then this one really hurt to leave off my top 10, but ultimately I decided not to include it because it is an EP, not considered a full length album, but just an EP. It's 6 songs. It's relatively short. It's way under half an hour long. Just 6 songs. Pretty short. I think. Yeah. Song number 5 isn't even listed on the back here, but, or I mean, song number 6. There's a hidden bonus track at the end. Um, and it almost could be considered an album. I don't know. You want to consider it an album? Honestly, it if I did put it on my album list, it would be contending for the number one spot. It's really that good. It would be top one or two or three. I mean, it would be right up there for my favorite albums of 1991. They did as much with 6 tracks on the CD, um, and in a very short length of time, as much as many other bands do with much longer albums. Um, yeah, Ugly Kid Joe's As Ugly as They Want to Be. Highly, highly recommend. By the way, it is actually the best selling EP of all time. It's not considered a full length album, it is only considered an EP. But to my knowledge, it still till this day holds the record for best selling EP of all time. Okay, now on to my top 10 proper. And again, it really hurts to leave Ugly Kid Joe's As Ugly as They Want to Be off of my top 10. But man, it might be number one or number two. It's so hard to rank. All right, I'm gonna kick things off with my number 10 as Bad English Backlash. This is a fairly recent discovery for me, but I've enjoyed it that much that I wanted to include it on my top 10. This is just a really good album. Now, Bad English wasn't a group that was around for very long. They only put out 2 albums. I believe the first one was 1989, and that was their self titled album. And then they come back in 1991 with Backlash. And um, they had a big hit. I forget the song title for their big hit off their first album. And everybody knows the first album because of that. But I actually think that the first album and that song and everything is a little overrated, in my opinion. But I like the second album. The second album makes my number 10 for 1991. And uh, my number 9 for 1991 is going to be Slave to the Grind by Skid Row. Now, I actually have both versions. There are 2 different versions of Slave to the Grind by Skid Row. If I can get out words here. This is Skid Row's second album. and there are two different versions here. And so um, you notice, okay, which one is this? This one, okay, so this one here, if you look on the back here, the track listing, it has a song called Beggar's Day. That was a song that was originally left off the album, Beggar's Day. They put it on because they had to sell secondary copies. Some stores were refusing to sell the original album as they put it. Now there's a song here from Skid Row. You can see it on the back there of the track listing. Hopefully you all can read that. Um, but the track listing there, you can see that there is a song called "Get the Fuck Out," and that's the original version of the album. Um, so there's "Get the Fuck Out" on the original uncensored version, and um, then because some outlets wouldn't sell that, they went back and reissued it with um, Beggar's Day instead of Get the Fuck Out. Um, my favorite track on this album is Wasted Time. It's a ballad and it's the last track on the album. Um, to me, it's the one that sounds the most like the first album. In that first album, uh, Skid Row first album, their self-titled album, I believe came out in 1989. Go back and watch my top 10 albums of 1989 video. I believe it ranked very high. The Skid Row self-titled album ranked very high in that episode. And Wasted Time to me is the song that sounds the most like the first album. Uh, but they definitely go a lot heavier. Um, the first album, they were really leaning into um, hair metal. On this, they go a lot heavier. They get closer to more of like a traditional heavy metal or almost a thrash down, depending on the songs. So yeah, they move away from the hair metal a little bit. Wasted Time, I think, is a little bit more, sounds a little more like a hair metal ballad. Um, but this is still a pretty good album, even though I like the first album better. Okay, so Slave to the Grind was my number 9. My number 8 is Into the Great Wide Open by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Yeah, going a little more, I don't know, would you call it Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers Southern rock or just traditional rock and roll? I don't know. Definitely, I would say there's a little bit of Southern rock flavor to a lot of his stuff, Tom Petty. Um, check out the title track, Into the Great Wide Open. But the whole album is pretty decent to listen to from beginning to end. So that is my number 8, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Into the Great Wide Open. My number 7, I'm going with George Thorogood and the Destroyers, Boogie People. Check out the title track, Boogie People, and just give this album a try. It is really good. Um, if you've watched some of my videos lately, I think I just, not too long ago, did a whole video on George Thorogood and the Destroyers. I'm going to have to check my list. I'm pretty sure I did do a video on them. If I didn't, I should do a video. So if I don't see that on the list, I'm gonna dedicate a whole video to George Thorogood and the Destroyers. Pretty sure I already did one though. Okay? Anyway, go back and watch that video. Really good stuff here. Now, a lot of people, when they think 1991, albums of 1991, they're going to think of this band and this album, and it's going to be number 1 for a lot of people. It's not my number 1, it's my number 6. Um, it's going to be Nirvana's Nevermind. Um, I don't hate grunge, there's the whole kind of rivalry between grunge and hair metal course, I side more with the hair metal side, but I don't hate grunge. Uh, Nevermind is still a really good album. You got Smells Like Teen Spirit, In Bloom, Come As You Are. I also like Polly. Yeah, this is a solid album. Uh, Nevermind Night by Nirvana. Everyone gets into that grunge, stuff. Um, Personally, I'm not uh, huge on grunge, um, but if Nirvana is a great band, that's a great album, and it's good enough for my number six album of 1991. Okay, my number five. So top five. Here we go. Pearl Jam, their album 10. 10 by Pearl Jam. I think this is actually a special edition that actually has 11 tracks on it. So it's got one extra bonus track. Yeah, I think on the original album there were only 10 tracks, and then later on they released a special edition with the extra track. But, um, or I could be wrong. Maybe it always had 11 tracks. I don't know. But Jeremy might be my favorite Pearl Jam song. They also got I think Black was a big hit for them. Alive, Even Flow, those were all big hits. And this is a pretty solid listen from the beginning to end. So you can see I do have Pearl Jam and Nirvana both in my top 10. Um, I think, um, yeah, I think you can be a fan of both hair metal and grunge. But uh, I do find sometimes that if I go on a grunge kick and I start listening to a lot of grunge, a lot, it kind of brings me down. It brings my mood down. I like to stay happy and I like to stay up, so I can't focus on grunge too much. That's something that kind of brings it down for me a little bit is I like to go back to hair metal because it just makes me feel good. All right, my number four. So this is kicking off my Mount Rushmore for 1991. My number four is Hey Stupid by Alice Cooper. Um, the title track, Hey Stupid, is just fantastic. You got Feed My Frankenstein. What a great song that is. Um, and this whole album just is just really good. Um, yeah, just listen to this album, Hey Stupid by Alice Cooper. This was the next album after to come out after 1989's Trash, and you can still hear a lot of that hair metal influence. Trash is a full-on hair metal album. Hey Stupid is more or less still, um, you know, retaining a lot of those hair metal elements, and you could probably just call it a hair metal album. But yeah, this is a fun listen from beginning to end. That's my number four. Okay, now Ozzy Osbourne, my number three, getting my bronze medal. Um, No More Tears is just a fantastic album. It's got the title track, Mama I'm Coming Home, Mr. Tinker Train, Zombie Stomp. Yeah, this is just No More Tears. Yeah, Ozzy had two albums, I believe. He only put out two considered full length studio albums in the decade of the 90s. Uh, this one and I believe the other one is called Osmosis. Both of them are really good. So if you only know Ozzy's solo stuff from the 80s, which he had some great 80s solo albums, I also recommend checking out his 90s solo albums because No More Tears is an excellent album. Okay, and here is Metallica Metallica, also known as Metallica the Black Album. This is my number two. This has got Enter Sandman, Sad But True, Nothing Else Matters. Um, yeah, some really good stuff on this album. Wherever I May Roam is another song. The Unforgiven is another one I recommend. But this is really a fantastic album from beginning to end. And um, you know, there are some Metallica fans who love 80s Metallica, and I love 80s Metallica too. The four albums that they put out in the 80s are all really great albums. Um, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think I mentioned all four albums in my episodes of each years of the 80s. Um, but I think if you don't like 90s Metallica, I would at least go back and give this one another listen over again, because I think it's better than some of its reputation deserves. Sometimes there are two different kinds of Metallica fans. There's Metallica fans who got into Metallica when the Black Album came out. Those are the 90s Metallica fans, and they they like wrote Load and Reload and Garage Days and all that, um, and the Black Album. But 80s Metallica fans sometimes reject those 90s albums. But I think um, I think 80s Metallica fans ought to at least give the first album of the 90s a re-listen and try it again. Um, you know, but the, Metallica got huge in the 90s, and a lot of new fans got on board. Some of them became fans of the older stuff too. They went into the back catalog and started listening to the 80s Metallica. But anyway, I'm giving my silver medal to Metallica's The Black Album. Okay, for my number one, I kind of cheated on my number one because I have a dual album here. Use Your Illusion 1 and Use Your Illusion 2. I feel kind of justified in putting this as my co number ones. Um, the reason I feel justified in doing that is because, for one thing, I can't pick up which album is better. It's very hard to pick. Is the album is it Use Your Illusion 1 or Use Your Illusion 2? Which one's better? Um, you know. Uh, but also in trying to choose this, um, they are called one and two, parts one and two, so really you could view it as a big old double album, or if this were on vinyl, this would be triple, quadruple, all of them together, one Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. Um, but I think I feel justified because they are part one and part two. They came out not only the same year and the same month, they came out on the same day. They were released on the same day together, Guns N' Roses. Use Your Illusion 1 and Use Your Illusion 2. Of course, Guns N' Roses is my favorite band of all time. You probably know that if you've watched the channel before, you've heard me talk about that before. And um, with Use Your Illusions 1 and 2, this is the big reason that these um, first four albums being Appetite for Destruction, GNR Lies, Use Your Illusion 1, and Use Your Illusion 2, are the reason they're my favorite band of all time. Because I would take I would take quality over quantity. So the quality to me of the first four Guns N' Roses albums, which really have a total of 50 songs. There's like enough material they could have split it into five albums, really, but they did put out Use Your Illusion 1 and Use Your Illusion 2 on the same day. Um, the quality of these albums, the first four Guns N' Roses albums, and all the songs that I love from these first four albums is what makes Guns N' Roses my favorite band of all time. So we got Civil War, 14 Years. Which one am I? Um, I think I was reading from Use Your Illusion 2 there. Yeah, just so many good things. Yesterday's, Knocking on Heaven's Door, Getting in the Ring. Yeah. Just so many good songs here. I like Dead Horse and Bad Apples. November Rain was a big hit. Double Talk and Jive is an underrated classic. You Ain't the First, Bad Obsession, Live and Let Die. Don't Cry, Back Off Bitch. There's just so many good songs on these two albums here. Let you get a look at Use Your Illusion 1 there. Get the track listing. And, of course, also Use Your Illusion 2. For me, this kind of big double, triple, quadruple album, whatever you want to call it, 30 songs. So it's like it's pretty much enough material to be, for most bands, a triple album, because a lot of bands like to do 10 songs per album. But 30 songs total on this like big triple Use Your Illusion albums. And I just really enjoyed the whole thing. So these are my number one albums of 1991. My co-number ones, Use Your Illusion 1 and Use Your Illusion 2. Okay, so wrapping that up. But again, also, um, even though I excluded it from my top 10 because it's an EP, check out Ugly Kid Joe, As Ugly as They Want to Be. If you don't know the band, you don't know the album. If you like Guns N' Roses, there's some similarity there. There's some similarity to Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne. Um, but yeah, definitely an underrated band, Ugly Kid Joe, and their EP As Ugly as They Want to Be from 1991. All right, that is my top 10 for 1991. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. All that stuff helps out my channel. All right, Dragonfire out.